Board Governance Committee virtual meeting of February the 16th to order.
Thank you, Chair Scott.
We'll have item number 2.
Thank you, Chair Scott.
Roll
Agenda
call.
item number 1 was the call to order at 1:06 p.m.
Call to order. Yes.
Agenda item
And
number 2.
Number 2, yes.
Agenda item number 2 is roll call, which is Commissioner Scott, Chair.
Present.
President Fallonsby.
Present.
And Commissioner Zavansky.
Present, with apologies to all for being so late.
No problem, Claire.
And with that, we have quorum.
Thank you, Holly. We'll now go to item number 3.
Thank you, Chair Scott. Agenda item number 3 is the Health Service Board Fiduciary Liability Insurance Coverage. This is a discussion item and will be presented by Abby Yant, Executive Director of HSS.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thanks for being here today. We have several guests to help us with this discussion. In August of last year, I guess that was 2021, we, with Eric's assistance, had an outside counsel come and talk with the board about fiduciary responsibilities. Towards the end of the presentation, I believe it was Commissioner Zavansky had raised a question on the possible need, or was it really the need on whether or not personal liability insurance is warranted for this particular commission. Eric and I've had several conversations. We looped in Matt Hansen, Kelly Hernandez from the Risk Management Office for the City and County of San Francisco, and wanted to have that discussion here with you today. And to kind of cut to the chase, we're not recommending that we pursue this, but I wanted you to have an opportunity to hear the advice that I had received that helped me formulate that decision to not recommend, and allow time for you to have an interactive discussion on any questions that you might have for the team that is here today. So, Eric, can you kick this off? You're on mute.
Thanks for pointing that out. As Abby said, we've been talking about this internally before getting back to you, and I was thinking that it might make sense for Matt actually to go first to describe exactly what the insurance is, what does it cover, and his experience with it, and then I'll chime in with the sort of the legal perspective. And if you have any questions, or Matt can follow up at the end if I miss something.
Great, thank you, Eric. Matt Hansen, Director of the Risk Management Division for the City and County, and I have Kelly Hernandez also with us here today, and she was integral in working on these questions that were brought to us for assistance on the insurance, the actual question of insurance for the Health Service Board. And what we started with was a discussion of what exists in terms of insurance programs for other boards or commissions around the city and county. And that morphed into something that was a market discussion with the insurance markets about what would be an appropriate insurance product for the services of this particular board and what you are responsible for. And generally around the city and county, we have 6 or 7 programs for directors and officers, liability insurance programs, and 1 for investment management liability with the retirement board. But for the health service system, it was determined that the product that would be most appropriate would be a fiduciary liability product. And in terms of most appropriate, what it does is it actually fits within the business of this board. So in terms of what is insurance, why insurance? Insurance in this case would be just as the other boards had decided to purchase a directors and officers coverage, would be a treatment to the indemnity obligation of the city to its board members. So for the case, and that is Eric's area that I won't step into, but we'll allow him to jump in on that end of it. But the insurance itself is simply the vehicle to pay any claims or judgments that come out of any allegations against the board or individuals in the course and scope of their duties. This particular coverage limit was marketed, and we do have options available in the marketplace. The prices begin around, I don't know if you're interested in hearing about the pricing and the structure, but the prices begin around $32,000 a year for a $3 million limit, and then go up from there to a $5 million limit, which is the floor of the limit we have for other commissions around the city. And that price would be about a $50,000 annual price tag. And there's some nuts and bolts around the program that we can get into if you have specific questions. But that's the basis of it. We did go out and find the product. We are actively able to present that product to you today. And I apologize, I have a leaf blower right outside my window right now. Hopefully that isn't too loud for you.
Great. Okay, well, thanks, Matt. I think that's pretty good. Obviously, if the board has additional questions, they can ask. And I really appreciate the time both you and Abby have spent sort of researching this. So at the outset, as that Matt alluded to, that we already, and I know this issue has come up over the years that various commissioners have asked about whether it's directors and officers insurance or fiduciary liability insurance. And we start generally at the government code, section 825 requires the city, within scope to both defend and indemnify city employees and officers when they get sued. I went back and I looked at our board claims, and I'm personally not aware of any lawsuit against an individual board member for conduct taken within the scope of their duties ever getting sued, since the health service system was created back in 1933. I think when you look at the other department, whether it's the airport or the PUC or the port or the retirement system that do have, whether it's not exactly this insurance, but other similar insurance, they're in a very different business. Whether if you're doing an investment business where if you haven't done the due diligence, there's a clear potential for monetary damages, or if you're the PUC overseeing $11 billion in construction contracts with bond money, I could see that being a very different analysis. And I think when we look at the healthcare markets are very different. We have a very limited number of healthcare companies, and all of the insurance products, basically it's the same basket of goods. And we've been very lucky with, working with our actuaries and making informed decisions in that regard. And I think that was the one thing that I've actually learned through this process, that purchasing this insurance doesn't expand your coverage. It's basically insurance to cover what you already have under the government code. And so as these claims come up, I think our office is fully capable of handling them. I know in the past when we get claims that require specialized legal expertise, our office will routinely go out and get outside counsel. It's kind of hard to think about what, when you start thinking about the hypotheticals, what claims would be. I mean, I think it's fair to point out it doesn't cover intentional fraud, and there is no insurance for intentional fraud. So you're talking about getting insurance for conduct within the scope of your job duties, conduct that would already be covered under the government code section 825. And so I would encourage each of you to take a look at that. It's not that long of a section. And if you have any questions, call me. So I think given all that, and, you know, and Abby can speak to the ultimate recommendation, but if you're not really getting it, you know, if the coverage is already the same and our office can handle it and then reach out to outside counsel if needed. And I think the risk is very different and probably, you know, significantly less than potential risk for the retirement system or the PUC. Is it, yeah, you know, that's obviously a client decision, but I think our sense, well, I'll let Abby give you, find, you know, come up with the client decision, client, or at least the department recommendation. And if you obviously, if you have any questions to me or Matt, please let us know.
It is quieted on my end, so I apologize again for that in
Okay.
case you have any questions.
This is Commissioner Follinsby. I guess the only question I have is, you mentioned several other agencies or commissions that do have such coverage. And I guess the question is, can you summarize what the nature of the cases might be in turn that maybe suggest that they should have coverage so that we can compare what our function is?
I can actually give you one significant difference. While each of the agencies did begin the conversation much as this group did as well, wondering about the liability of board members and how best to treat that. However, a directors and officers liability product is a different animal, really, than a fiduciary liability product. One of the major components of what we call a D&O policy, or what in the past was called public officials liability policy, is that it is companion to employment practices. And so there are employment practices components to many of the other policies that are placed throughout the city. And that's where the claim activity is really seen, not on the D&O side, but on what's called the EPL side, the employment practices liability side. So that is a distinction between the programs that are in place versus the one that you're looking at as well.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? I would just, or comments or observations, particularly Claire, do you have anything else that comes to mind in terms of a question beyond that which you raised earlier?
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. I really appreciate the opportunity. I guess what I want to say is maybe I shouldn't listen to some of my colleagues who are on the retirement board who are, who are much more paranoid. However, their function, since they are making decisions with regard to investments, and they are dealing with this in and out money, and all of their role is very different than ours. And I understand that completely, because I have to monitor that board for for our retiree newsletter. But I was listening to some of that discussion, and while I felt comfortable as an employee for all my years that, you know, I was working within the guidelines of the city, and therefore the city covers me. And for my experience on the health service board, I don't recall, as our city attorney pointed out, that we've had any kind of lawsuits. But I just wanted to, I guess, to raise the question again to see if anything had changed, and if we faced any kind of personal liability that we should become aware of. And we function well, I think, as a board, and we're not off making our own kinds of decisions, and we're not committing trust fund monies to investments that could go bad and that sort of thing. So I'm feeling much more comfortable listening to Matt and also Eric on their explanations of how we're covered and to what extent. And so I'm feeling that this isn't something we need to pursue or consider at this point, that we have done some due diligence in the research, all that Abby did, that Matt did, that Eric did, and that we should feel comfortable going forward. So that's the
All right.
conclusion I'm now coming to, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Commissioner Savansky. Uh, the only other comment that I would make is that under our terms of governance, it is very clear about how our decisions as a board are made. And we do rely on the expertise of our actuary. We do rely upon regarding our health plan, informing our health plan decision making. We rely upon the expertise of our staff and external experts that are brought to us to bear on some of the issues surrounding healthcare policy and programs and benefit design and so forth. So it isn't as if we as a board are kind of independently freelancing our decision making at any point. And so I absolutely would concur with what has been presented today that it should not be necessary for us to pursue a separate type of insurance based upon the types of governance, both policies in terms of reference that we rely on and how we go about our decision. If that got modified in some way, our investments are handled through the city treasurer's office, for instance. But if we took that on as a separate thing, and I want to particularly emphasize that I'm not in any way, for the public record, advocating that we get involved in that. But if we did that, then yes, probably our situation would shift from our current position. But I think that we have the fact that the question was raised was fine, and the fact that we've done due diligence, as you pointed out, around getting at the answer that we should go on record and report out from this discussion today that we don't see the necessity of this type of separate insurance. Abby, do you have anything else to add at this point?
No, not really. I do appreciate the fact that Matt and Eric and Kelly were able to support me in learning and understanding the question and the response. But I do concur with what's been stated and um, don't see the need for any action at this time.
All right.
Commissioner Scott,
Yeah.
can I just add that two things?
Yes.
One is that when I went to the IFEBP convention about 3 or 4 years ago, I attended the session on this issue, and I was comfortable with the issues that they discussed as well. That in fact our situation is different than what most of the attendees were responsible for. I also want to point out that we as a board do have a fiduciary investment policy, and we review that regularly. So it's not as if we've turned over responsibility. We have actively and on a schedule reviewed all that and take responsibility for it as a board to review that policy as well. So I think that from my perspective, I totally agree that we are well covered and don't need additional insurance coverage. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so with that, if there are no further comments, I'd like to thank our counsel, the Director of Risk Management and his associate, Matt, for your due diligence on that. And with that, we'll turn to public comment on this item.
Chair Scott, I'll be pulling up our instructions and reading them aloud. So public comment will be available for each item on this agenda. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to comment in length unless the committee chair deems new public comment time limits during the meeting. All public comments are to be made concerning the agenda item that has been presented. As a reminder, a caller may ask questions of the policy body, but there is no obligation to answer or engage in dialogue with the caller. When I welcome you on the call, you're encouraged to state your name clearly, although you may remain anonymous. When your 3 minutes have ended, I will thank you for your comment. You'll be placed back on mute, and the moderator will unmute the next caller. Remote viewing is available today via the online platform WebEx. Opportunities to speak during the public comment period are available by dialing the number on the screen. The dial-in number is 415-655-0001. Again, 415-655-0001. When prompted, use access code 2483-425-9383. Again, 2483-425-9383. Then press pound and pound again. You will enter the meeting as an attendee on the public comment call line and dial *3 to be added to the public comment queue. When the system message says your line has been unmuted, this is your time to speak. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. We'll just take a momentary pause while our moderator notifies us of any callers in the public comment queue.
Board Secretary, we have 2 callers on the phone line. 0 callers have specifically entered the public comment queue at this time. A reminder to all callers on the line. You must dial *3 now if you want to join public comment for this specific agenda item. We will wait 5 more seconds and then close public comment for this agenda item. Board Secretary, there are no callers in the public comment queue at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Hearing no further callers, public comment is now closed.
Thank you, Board Secretary. With that, we will move to agenda item number 4, Board Education Report and Plan.
Thank you, Chair Scott. Agenda item number 4 is review and approve the 2021 Board Education Report and Education Plan for 2022 draft. This is an action item, and I'll be presenting this as the Board Secretary.
Thank you.
And I'll be pulling up our presentation slides. Just one moment. Chair Scott, can you see that presentation coming through?
Yes, I can. It's visible on my screen. I'm trusting that it is elsewhere.
All right. So thank you, committee members. Today I'll be presenting on the 2021 Board Education Report and Education Plan for 2022. This is a draft, and after your review and approval, it will go to the full board in the March meeting. And it'll be a short 2 slides just to review. The full report was given in the board materials. So this first slide overviews the education experiences in the 2022 year. And that first top chart outlines the education opportunities that were presented at the full board. So 6 in total, and 3 of which were internal presentations, 3 of which we had external subject matter experts come in and present. So starting with our internal presentations, in January, we had a health plan underwriting presentation by Mike Clark with Aon. In May, we had mental health awareness presentation with Carrie Bashirs, our well-being manager at HSS. And in November, we had the population health and measurement plan presented by Derek Choi. And then the second half of these offerings were by the subject matter experts externally. And that was in August with our fiduciary training by Chris Shears with Ice Miller. And then followed it in September with the healthcare cost transparency presentation by Suzanne Del Blanco with Catalyst for Payment Reform. And then in December, we had UC Berkeley and the SFHSO ACO study given by Tim Brown and Emily Haig with UC Berkeley. And then the bottom half of the slide presents the reported self-study education hours in 2021. And there was a managing implicit bias training, which was a combination offered for both commissioners and for the HSS staff, which both Commissioner Scott and President Follansbee were able to participate in. Commissioner Howe attended a Kaiser Permanente 2022 Premium Rate Development webinar online. And the last self-reported experience was with President Follansbee, who also attended an online webinar or training, excuse me, from Catalyst Payment for Reform, which was a series on master classes in pharmacy. So these were the presented. The next one is the education plan for 2022. And I forgot to mention this, but this information was reported throughout the year, and this education plan was really based on the gathering of the information with the completion of the annual board education survey. And the topics listed here were ranked from the first to the fifth. So the priority that the board commission survey resulted with was the top priority being mental health services. Second being the pharmacy, high-cost drug and genomics. Third topic would be addiction services, including the medication-assisted treatment. Fourth, primary care repayment reform. Fifth, there was an equal reporting request for both population health, or what we have also called the social determinants of health, and gerontology. So with these topics will be the guiding points for planning in the 2022 year. And then also wanted to point out that the education plan, which is posted on the website, it spans from 2019 to 2021. So a new education plan for the 2023 to 2025 year is due. So it will be for the governance committee to create that education plan as it will align with the new updated health service system strategic plan. So that would be for the committee to schedule out towards the middle of the year. And then this last bullet point here is the education resources. Just a reminder that the education plan lives on the board web pages, as well as any recordings of the offerings that are given throughout the year. And with that, I can pause and hand it over to Commissioner Scott for discussion.
Well, thank you very much, Board Secretary Holly, for your compilation of this report and tracking these various things. In reviewing the materials, I didn't realize we had all of these happening just about every month of the year until you saw the report that we do education in many, many ways. So thank you. I would ask the committee members whether they have any questions regarding the report or comments at this time.
Yeah,
Mr. Follansbee?
Commissioner Scott, if I can speak, this is President Follansbee. Thank you, Holly, for this is really a comprehensive, both slides really contain a lot of information and a lot of work to put that together in such a straightforward form, and I compliment you on that. I have one question. I actually submitted to you a longer list of topics of which I attended. There were webinars sponsored by a variety of different outside agencies that actually dealt with some of the issues that are on our education plan wish list for 2022, and those were not included. And I want to know if that was not included because they don't qualify to be considered. I had about 15 or 18 more hours actually that were not listed of webinars that I attended. A variety of so based on my interest in what I think the board's responsibility HSS is involved in. So they were not random things about, neurosurgical techniques or something. But I don't know if that was left out on purpose or that's a policy to leave those out and not report those. I'd like some clarification on that.
No, I'm definitely glad this is a draft, because that was my mistake. And I do remember you sending me your information, so there would be no reason for them to be excluded. It was my mistake of not entering them in. So as this is a draft, I can enter those back in and send it out to the committee before it goes to the full board. So no reason to have it not be included. My apologies.
Okay. Thank you. Are there other questions or comments from committee? Well, I do point out that we have we do have an action step after we go through the strategic planning process to come back and say, okay, we may have identified these priorities, but in addition, are there other issues that are coming out of our strategic plan for the next cycle that we need to either, number one, identify and then prioritize in terms of our own education as we go forward with the strategic plan. So if there are no other board comments at this time, I would call for public comment on this item?
I'm sorry, is this an action item or?
Yes, it is an action item.
I think, okay,
I'm sorry, I need to have a motion then.
you need to have a motion and
Yes,
second it
I'm
before we
sorry.
open it.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Then Commissioner Scott and Commissioner Follinsby, would I suggest that the motion include that we approve the 2021 Board Education Report and plan for 2022 with the addition of the materials that were mentioned by President Follinsby to be included in this report. So that
Is
would
there
be
a
the
second?
motion. Yeah.
Second,
Been a motion and a second, and at this point, we will now go to public comment. I'm sorry about the fact that I didn't get the sequence quite right. Yes,
And may I ask one quick question? I just want
yes.
clarification. Because I see our number one request is for mental health services. May I assume that issues such as, oh boy, and I'm having the senior moment as I'm bringing up the issue. Recently, several retirees, it's come to our attention that a few more retirees have recently been diagnosed with memory deficiencies or Alzheimer's and Lewy body and a few other kinds of dementias. Those would be included in mental health services, correct? And they would not be necessarily under gerontology or need a separate category. Am I correct in
I would
saying that?
interpret that, but I would also defer to Director Yant to,
I think in the field, there's debate on where those issues lie, whether they're mental health or whether they're neuro issues. And I mean, at first blush, I would say that is a pretty big topic in and of itself.
Yeah.
And we can touch on it here and there. But if we did dementia, Alzheimer's, chronic neurological conditions, it may better align with gerontology, although in a lot of those conditions may not necessarily be gerontology. So I think we should consider that, but it didn't rise. I don't recall, Holly, even in the notes on the survey that was mentioned. So we can add it on as a topic to be considered, but I'm not inclined to say that it would be part of the mental health services.
okay.
Thank you. So I think
But
at some point, yeah, if we can just put it on the list somewhere, I'd really like that.
Well,
'cause
we
it
could
makes
put it
people-
parenthetically, but beside the gerontology
Yeah.
as a specific focus, i.e., dementia, Alzheimer's, parenthetically, just put it right there.
Yeah.
And we know that also that some of these services are delivered in different settings. And so again, if we're talking about mental health, it may get to some of these other issues as well. So I would ask that we edit that and amend your motion to include the addition of those parenthetical
I would do
comments.
so. Yeah, I would do so, Commissioner Scott, because I think also could fall under pharmacy. 'Cause I'm hearing, oh, there's all these things being prescribed
Right.
for my colleagues as well. So yes, I would like to add the issue of dementia to the topics to be
Okay.
considered for 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so with that, we have a motion and we will now turn to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Scott. I'll be displaying those instructions and reading them aloud. So public comment will be available for each item on this agenda. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to comment in length unless the committee chair deems new public comment time limits during the meeting. All public comments are to be made concerning the agenda item that has been presented. As a reminder, a caller may ask questions of the policy body, but there's no obligation to answer or engage in dialogue with the caller. When I welcome you on the call, you're encouraged to state your name clearly, although you may remain anonymous. When your 3 minutes have ended, I will thank you for your comment. You'll be placed back on mute, and the moderator will unmute the next caller. Remote viewing is available via the online platform WebEx. Opportunities to speak during the public comment period are available by dialing the number on the screen. The dial-in number is 415-655-0001. Again, 415-655-0001. When prompted, use access code 2483-425-9383. Again, 2483-425-9383. When you enter the, and then press pound and pound again. You will enter the meeting as an attendee on the public comment call line and dial *3 to be added to the public comment queue. When the system message says your line has been unmuted, this is your time to speak. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. We'll wait just a moment as our moderator will notify us of any callers in the public comment queue at this time.
Board Secretary, we have 2 callers on the phone line. 0 callers have specifically entered the public comment queue at this time. A reminder to all callers on the line. You must dial *3 now if you want to join public comment for this specific agenda item. We will wait 5 more seconds and then close public comment for this agenda item. Board Secretary, there are still no callers in the public comment queue at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Hearing no further callers, public comment is now closed.
I think you're muted, Commissioner Scott.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Board Secretary. And we have a motion before us, and I will summarize it. And if I've mischaracterized it or left something out, I would ask the committee member proposing the motion, Commissioner Savansky, to add it. That we approve the board education report and education plan as listed, that we include the additional information on Dr. Follansby's educational hours, and that we add in the gerontology area, the words dementia, Alzheimer, and related illnesses to that particular choice or a priority. So those are the 3 edits or portions of the amendment.
Well stated.
Okay, so with that, I'm now going to go to voting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it and carried unanimously. We'll now go to action or item number 5 on the agenda, which is an action item as well, the board self-evaluation report. Board Secretary.
Thank you, Chair Scott. Agenda item number 5 is review and approve annual 2021 board self-evaluation report draft. This is an action item, and I'll be presenting that as a board secretary.
All right, thank you.
I'll be pulling up that presentation. Just one moment. Chair Scott, can you see that coming through on your screen?
Yes, I can, and I trust that everyone can see it as well.
Thank you. So today I'll be presenting the 2021 annual self-evaluation report draft, which was received in your board materials. And I'll just be going through those sections. giving you time to discuss together as a group. So just to review the process and the self-evaluation areas, the governance committee met in November of last year to review and approve the timeline so that the annual survey could be conducted in both November and December. There were 4 areas of the evaluation: the government's structure and policies, board member interactions and meeting activities, as well as goal setting and communications, the last being the board's interactions with management. So today I'll just be walking us through the 3 sections of the report, which really is the executive summary, the results of each of those evaluation areas, and then giving time for discussion on areas that you want to focus as a committee for 2022. And in that first section of the executive summary really highlights the total score. So we see that those scores actually across the 2019, 2020, and 2021. And we can see that in every area of the evaluation, scores increased, the ratings increased, which is a congratulations to the board members in adding time and in those areas to improve. And just to note, as we go through the executive summary, any marked improvement is really if there's a 0.3 rating change, whether increased or decreased. There's a total of 36 questions. 17 of those questions ratings increased this year, which is a large amount for the overall number of questions. 6 question ratings decreased and 7 remained the same. And then just to note, we had a 100% completion rate. All board members participated in the self-evaluation. And if we start in this executive summary with an area of improvement, there really was only one area that was in the board member interactions and meeting activities with the statement, board members adequately contribute to discussions and deliberations. And we see that in 2020, that rating score was at a 4.4, and in 2021, it decreased to 4.1. So this is an area that can be discussed further, really knowing that there's only one throughout all the areas. The executive summary also points out in 2020 what was noted as an improvement area, and then seeing the improvement in the 2021 year. So those were in 2 areas, in both of governance structure and policies, and in the board member interactions and meeting activities. And it's very clear to see that the board improved in all areas. And at least in the governance structure and policies, there was a 0.07 increase on the second to last, where it says the board receives information and reports that are necessary to carry out its duties. So that was the largest increase throughout the report, and the board members were very satisfied with that information being delivered to them. And then we can see in the board members' interactions and meeting activities in 2020, that one item of the board members understand it's appropriate to act as in a fiduciary role was at a 3.7, and in 2021 that increased to 4.1. The last area of the executive summary highlights the most significant score increases. And again, there were 17 increases throughout the areas. In every single area, there was improvement. And this just lists those individual statements across those sections.
Holly, can I just point out, I think it's a typographical error because it didn't appear later in the slides. And that's under goal setting and communications. The third item, the board instills trust among stakeholders. The number is, you list as 2.5, when I think actually further down, it was actually 4.5.
Right.
Jumped out, and I thought, oh my gosh, but I actually found out that it's really 4.5. So if you could correct that, that will clear up any confusion or alarm.
Yes.
Thank you, because I was really upset by seeing that as well. Appreciate that.
Thank you for pointing that out. So yes, absolutely. It's in the most significant score increases, not a decrease. Thank you very much. Okay. So the next section we'll go through is the results of those individual evaluation areas, starting with the governance structure and policies. And this really is just a pullout from the report of the individual ratings for each statement. So you'll see that it's a 4.3 rating overall, and majority of ratings fell within the agree or strongly agree, with some as neutral as well. The one that stood out that had a strongly disagree was the board's continuing education program equips its members with knowledge that need to be effective. And to also point out, in these individual evaluation areas, comments are offered. They're not required. And the only comment that came through in this section was just a general comment about needing more, improving upon the education offerings, but nothing specific. Were there any other questions for this section?
Not for me, thank you.
Okay.
Let's proceed.
All right. I'm just going to make sure I'm gathering those comments to call up quickly. Okay.
If I could just comment, I guess it does raise the issue. We asked for comments for items that in which, you know, I think we asked for comments on items we strongly disagree or strongly agree. But certainly, I think we need to maybe be a little more specific in our comments if we disagree or strongly agree, because having just gone through the education item on the agenda, I'm not sure that this actually enhances what we did wrong more than, again, what our needs are for the future, but it doesn't really maybe the lack of specificity is disturbing.
Thank you, President Fonsby. I'll make a note too. Then we in the draft what we may want to put into the evaluation tool, specific language you're requesting. Okay. Chair Scott, can I move forward?
Yes, please do.
Okay. The next section is the board member interactions and meeting activities. Again, this section has quite a few more statements, but the majority overwhelmingly positive, with ratings in the agree or strongly agree, and the overall score being a 4.3. So what comes to calls out, you know, especially seeing this chart, is the statement, the board focuses on policy and strategy in addition to operations, which again had a strongly disagree, but no comments were specifically made or suggestions about this rating. The second statement with a disagree was the board members understand it is appropriate to act as a fiduciary. And one comment did say that the fiduciary training may have helped, but nothing other than that. And then the third statement in this section, which had the disagree and the neutral, all board members adequately contribute to discussions and deliberations. This was the one area of focus in the executive summary area where it had the 0.03 decrease in rating. So this may be an area that the board wants
And
to
was there a
focus
comment there, Holly?
yes, there was. It says that not all board members speak to all the items, and some board members take discussions into tangential directions. And that was for that. That was a comment that specifically related to that statement.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else on this from the committee? If not, we'll move on to goal setting and communications.
I'll move forward.
Yes.
So goal setting and communications. This overall score was a 4.3. And again, positively rated, majority in the agree and strongly agree, with some neutral. And there were 3 comments in this section that stood out that relate, I think, to the board communications with plan members and with the statement that the board communicates effectively as one voice to all parties. So the first comment was, we do not have direct communications with members or the city. The staff address member concerns and communicate with the city. The second comment stated, it is important that the board communicate well with plan members, which there could be some contradiction in both of those. You know, a comment about we do communicate with members and another one that we do not. The third statement related was an encouragement to need more members to take part in what we do. Other than that, no other comments in that section.
All right. Any comments on this one? Proceed to the next area.
The last section is the board's interactions with management, and a total rating of 4.8, which was the highest rating of all the sections. And I guess we can see this sort of spread across the neutral, agree, and strongly agree. And one area that stood out a little bit more was the statement that received a neutral rating of 42.9%, where the board ensures management has the necessary financial and human resources to achieve the organization's goals. And there were two comments, again with somewhat opposing understandings, is that the board has little power to provide necessary financial resources. And the second was, we get reports on the recruitments, but not provide any direct input into the human resources that are needed for HSS.
I'm sorry, would you say that one more time?
Yes. The second statement was, we receive reports on recruitments, but have not provided direct input into the human resources that are needed. And those relate to that that statement about ensuring the management has the necessary financial and human resources to achieve the organization's goals.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Comments from the committee on this area? If not, let's go to the action steps.
So this slide.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Savinsky?
I'm sorry, can we just go back 1 second?
Yes, please.
Where feasible, the board engages in effective management succession planning, and we've got that strong disagree with a couple of neutrals there. Were there any comments in that section?
Thank you, Commissioner Zavansky. Yes, so there was some spreading of the ratings with a disagree, a 14.3% of disagree, and there was one comment that said, I have not seen any succession planning brought to the board. And that was it.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you. Next.
This slide on the 2021 action steps to improve those 2022 requests. So this lists the actions that were taken by the board to improve. So there was, in the 2020 year, there was a request to diversify the education resources. And as noted, commissioners were able to participate in implicit bias training. And then in the weekly board update emails to each commissioner, there was opportunities, suggested opportunities, not required, but suggested. The second request for improvement was a timeline on how the Health Service Board would be involved in the RFP process last year. And so that timeline and the process was discussed at full board meetings. And then the subsequent RFI that went out, the request for information last year, 2 commissioners were able to participate as panelists to be involved in that process. The third request was providing regular strategic plan updates to the board, and those were primarily given through the director's report throughout the year, and then an agenda item of the strategic plan progress report was given in 2021. It was requested, as number 4 says, the strategic plan notations on the board agendas, which we didn't end up enacting, and more so putting those in the director's reports. Number 5 was the offering of the fiduciary training, which was conducted in August of last year. And then there was a request, number 6, to review the communication plans of the department for HSS. And in April of 2021, the Director of Communications did present as an agenda item. And number 7, key messages to improve on the board web pages. And that was primarily done on the main board web page, sort of to outline what the board does, timelines. And then in addition to that, actually setting up an additional web page about the rates and benefits cycle so that members really understand when those rates and benefits are being set and can participate along with the calendar. And then the last improvement request last year was to around the evaluation tool. Prior years, you were not able to scroll back through your submission before you completed. So there was a question added to ensure that you could. And then there was also a request to have a final confirmation email sent out when a board member completed the survey. And that is not available as of right now because it would reveal the email address of the respondent. So it's just up to the responsibility of the board member and I as the board secretary to make sure that those are completed. So it did seem to be efficient this year.
All right. So this is a confirmation that we identified areas of improvement in 2020, and we actually took action on these during this past year. And as Holly and I reviewed this, I felt that we really needed to highlight that just asking for areas of improvement and not having a companion slide to show that we responded to it or tried to engage in improvement during the year sort of defeats the purpose. So I think this helps to tie a conclusion to those issues that were raised in the prior survey. Thank you, Holly. Are there comments on this page? If not, we'll move to the last. I think it's the last page, yes.
If I could just make one comment, maybe
Yes.
you provide a great explanation for the last item, email to confirm completion not available. Maybe you should add without violating confidentiality so that people
Right.
don't understand. So people understand what not available means.
Yes. All right.
Support
Very good.
confidentiality.
All right, noted. I can add that into the final draft.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Follansby. All right, I'll move on to the last slide. So this is really where we can have a discussion. These 5 items were pulled from the comments to consider as areas to focus on for 2022. One of which being the board can do a better job in role definition. That was a comment that came through. We discussed improving on the continuing education request. Number 3 was not all board members speak on all items, and some board members take those discussions into tangential directions. 4th was the focus on policy and strategy in addition to operations. And 5th was the need for more members to take interest in what we do. And so these were really pulled, but it's for you as a committee now to decide what areas you would like to focus on. So I'll pass this back over to Chair Scott.
All right. Thank you. And these are not, by the numbers being presented here, these are not showing some sort of prioritization of the issues. I would just say that these are the 5 things that were kind of drawn from all of the comments that have been made. And I guess my question would be, is there some one or more of these that we want to expand to try to shape a focus around what we might do or what the topic or question might be?
Can I just maybe ask a couple questions? I think my takeaway from looking at the results are actually I'm quite pleased with the improvement, and I think that is a tribute to board members, but also to you, Holly, and HSS staff, and certainly Abby for addressing these issues as well. So issues, but I think if we're going to areas to focus on, we need to come to some agreement. Like number 1, the board can do a better job in role definition. Well, whose role? I think that we need to be a little more specific. Frankly, my takeaway from some of the responses, as minimal as they were, and I think that this gets to maybe another area to focus on, is that we need to do a better job on understanding the role of the HSB commissioners, because some of the comments to me suggest that maybe there's some confusion over what is our role as commissioners. We are not members of HSS, as we're all aware. So maybe we should agree on what role we're talking about, number 1. Improve continuing education is, I think, again, continue to address emerging needs and continuing education or something, being a little bit more specific as well. And I guess I would comment, I would ask, well, one thing is I wonder if the tool can use some tweaking. We've made a couple of suggestions already in terms of the tool, in terms of, encouraging comments when there's a degree or strongly disagree. But some of the tool questions seem to maybe lead commissioners astray into not defining exactly what we really want to ask. We don't have a role in the hiring and firing of HSS staff. We have a role in leadership in our director, but beyond that, we actually don't. And so I think there's one of the ranking in the comment suggests that there's some confusion over, again, our role definition, but also what we can focus on in terms of policy and strategy. And likewise, number 5, need more members to take interest in what we do. I think that's a thing I think we're talking about member and beneficiaries and not talking about board members. I don't think anyone's accusing the board members of not being interested.
But again, by the way that this comment is made, we don't know what
Exactly.
the intent of the comment is.
Yeah. So that goes back to
so-
the tool. I think we need to maybe focus a little bit on some tweaking of some of the tool, and we can each do that individually and come together the next time the tool is being reviewed for
Right.
for use.
Focuses on policy and strategy in addition to operations. I guess this goes back to, again, where we have, I think that Abby came to the board at least once or twice during the year to talk about kind of where we were relative to our strategic plan.
Right.
And maybe we need to kind of underscore that, or again, the notion of trying to note on the agenda as we take up certain items that this is in response to a strategic policy or an initiative that we've identified in our strategy. That was to help to try to, I guess, remind us that many of the things that we're doing throughout the year are tied to our strategy from an education standpoint, a discussion standpoint, a decision standpoint, and so forth. So it's, again, as we go into this next strategic cycle, we may try to maybe pay a little more attention to that. Commissioner Savansky?
Thank you very much. At the risk of number 3, falling into not all board members speak on all items, sometimes at least for myself, if I don't speak on an item, to me that says I agree with what's been presented, what's been said. I agree with my colleagues, and I don't need to take any more airtime or meeting time to restate what has already been there. So I think we need to be a little sensitive and need to find out among our colleagues, perhaps, that silence may mean that
Consent.
There's agreement and consent, absolutely. Regarding tangential directions, I own some of that, so I'm just going to try to not go there. But number 5, need more members to take interest in what we do. It's interesting what Dr. Follansby said with regard to that. And in my brain, and this probably comes from my own experience and my own history, both as a city worker and as a member of this board, but also as a very active member in both SEIU and IFPTE as I was working for the city and now still as a retiree. I interpret members to mean members of the health service system, our colleagues who are active employees and retirees. And there is a reality that has to do with things that we as individual members of the commission and even our staff really don't have that much to do with, because as we pointed out, health service doesn't send out, a weekly email to all active employees. It just doesn't, it's not what we do. It's not how we are. When they need our benefits, they come to our system. And that's how it's worked for years. But for some of us, I mean, I can go back to the unions that I work with and suggest that they pay more attention. I will tell you the police, the POA, and the firefighters are watching us every minute, and I assume that a couple of the callers on the line usually come out of one or both of those organizations. So they're the safety side, including sheriffs, do take an interest in what we do. But unless there's somebody communicating with active employees through other organizations, if it ain't broke, they don't fix it. And if they don't need what we do, they're not paying attention because they have other responsibilities and other interests and other concerns. So I think we just need to figure out how we define members and whether or not it's in any of our roles, again, back to number one, in any of our role definitions to own any part of number five. So it's an interest that I think we can't create, that it either arises based on need or it doesn't. Those are my comments. Thank you.
All right.
If I could,
Commissioner
if I could,
Follinsby.
yeah, thank you very
Yeah.
much. And thank you, Claire, Commissioner Svenska, as well for your comments. I take number three really as a challenge to the chair. And I am open to, as the one who chairs most of these meetings until my term of president is up, which is soon, that I try to make sure that I always ask board members for the opportunity to make comments after it seems like no one has anything else to say. I try to ask members again, and I will redouble my efforts in that regard. In my memory, I've only commented once to a board member that I thought that the discussion was going off in a tangential area, and I felt quite guilty doing that in public. And so I do understand the issue, and I think we all understand the issue. And I would be open. I think each chair should be open to how that can be accomplished in a way without impinging on First Amendment rights, because obviously everyone has a right to be heard, both board members, HSS staff who are present, and our members and beneficiaries. And so it's sometimes is a slippery slope. But if there are suggestions that someone wants to make offline to me, but how I could do this better, I would be happy to entertain this. And lastly, number five, I think that the comment really has to do with what we as the board does. I know that 2 years ago, and Holly's been very good about asking, and Abby have been very good about asking me to make a statement for our annual report, which wasn't always updated, I think, with previous annual reports, and I've been insistent that we do that. But other ways that we could do this, I'm certainly, the HSS sends out regular emails and updates and does a great job. I think we're all beneficiaries of that as employees of the city and county of San Francisco in our capacity as commissioners. But what the board can do, whether there's an addendum to that or a line for the board in that update or something, I think we can discuss as well in more detail on another occasion. But take this seriously. I think this is an important item, but we should maybe clarify that we're talking about need more members to take interest in what we as HSB commissioners do.
All right. Thank you. And that concludes the self-evaluation report. We've had a discussion. I'm ready to entertain a motion before we go to public comment.
I guess I move that we accept the report with special thanks to Holly for its compilation and detail, with the editorial corrections as made, and maybe under areas to focus would be add a 6 to continue to work on refining the tool to reflect what the board members want and need in their self-assessment.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. The motion is that we accept the report, that we focus on the areas of conclusion, adding one of that we further refine the instrument for further evaluation cycles. And with that, we will go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Scott. I'll be bringing up those public comment instructions and reading them aloud momentarily. So public comment will be available for each item on this agenda. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to comment in length unless the committee chair deems new public comment time limits during the meeting. All public comments are to be made concerning the agenda item that has been presented. As a reminder, a caller may ask questions of the policy body, but there is no obligation to answer or engage in dialogue with the caller. When I welcome you on the call, you're encouraged to state your name clearly, although you may remain anonymous. When your 3 minutes have ended, I will thank you for your comment. You'll be placed back on mute, and the moderator will unmute the next caller. Remote viewing is available via the online platform WebEx. Opportunities to speak during the public comment period are available by dialing the number on the screen. The dial-in number is 415-655-0001. Again, 415-655-0001. When prompted, use access code 2483-425-9383. Again, 2483-425-9383. Then press pound and pound again. You will enter the meeting as an attendee on the public comment call line and dial *3 to be added to the public comment queue. When the system message says your line has been unmuted, this is your time to speak. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. We'll take a moment for our moderator to notify us of any callers in the public comment queue.
Board Secretary, we have 2 callers on the phone line. 0 callers have specifically entered the public comment queue at this time. A reminder to all callers on the line. You must dial *3 now if you want to join public comment for this specific agenda item. We will wait 5 more seconds and then close public comment for this agenda item. Board Secretary, there are still no callers in the public comment queue at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Hearing no further callers, public comment is now closed. Chair Scott, I think you're on mute.
I said thank you very much, Board Secretary, and we're now ready to vote on the motion, which is that we accept the annual board self-evaluation report with the related comments for areas of improvement being that we further, 6 being that we further refine the tool to ask for more specific comments for people who agree, who disagree, or strongly disagree with an item, as well as reviewing the other questions. That is the essence of the motion. We're now ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, and it is passed unanimously. We're now ready for item 6.
Thank you, Chair Scott. Agenda item number 6 is to vote on whether to hold closed session to review and approve the 2021 Annual Employee Performance Evaluation Draft Report. This is an action item. And just to note, I do believe on the agenda it was a mistake and it said 2020 annual employee, but it is indeed the 2021 Annual Employee Performance Evaluation. This will be presented by Commissioner Chair Scott.
Yes, given the fact that this is a quote personnel item, the board can vote to, or we as a committee can vote to go into closed session. And we believe that having the report that has been summarized by our board secretary warrants active consideration at this time. And so with that, I will entertain a motion that we go into closed session.
Chair Scott, I move that we go into closed session to review and approve 2021 annual employee performance evaluation.
Is there a
Second.
second? All right,
Second.
it's been properly moved and seconded that the committee go into closed session to review and approve the 2021 annual employee performance evaluation. Is there any further comment from the board? If not, we will now have public comment.
Thank you, Chair Scott. I'll be displaying those instructions and reading them aloud. Public comment will be available for each item on this agenda. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to comment in length unless the committee chair deems new public comment time limits during the meeting. All comments to be made concerning the agenda item that has been presented. As a reminder, a caller may ask questions of the policy body, but there's no obligation to answer or engage in dialogue with the caller. When I welcome you on the call, you're encouraged to state your name clearly, although you may remain anonymous. When your 3 minutes have ended, I will thank you for your comment. You'll be placed back on mute, and the moderator will unmute the next caller. Remote viewing is available via the online platform WebEx. Opportunities to speak during the public comment period are available by dialing the number on the screen. The dial-in number is 415-655-0001. Again, 415-655-0001. When prompted, use access code 2483-425-9383. Again, 2483-425-9383. Then press pound and pound again. You will enter the meeting as an attendee on the public comment call line and dial *3 to be added to the public comment queue. When the system message says your line has been unmuted, this is your time to speak. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. Our moderator will notify us of any callers in the public comment queue.
Board Secretary, we have 2 callers on the phone line. 0 callers have specifically entered the public comment queue at this time. A reminder to all callers on the line. You must dial *3 now if you want to join public comment for this specific agenda item. We will wait 5 more seconds and then close public comment for this agenda item. Board Secretary, there are still no callers in the public comment queue at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Hearing no further callers, public comment is now closed.
Thank you, Board Secretary. We now have a motion before us to go into closed session for consideration of this item. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. It passes unanimously. We will now go into closed session. We will follow also the instructions of the Board Secretary regarding this.
Thank you, Chair Scott. As we move into closed session, anyone who has been invited on the meeting as a panelist will be moved into the attendee, and that will take place momentarily. For all those callers on the line or attendees, please wait until we re-enter the session, at which point I'll reactivate our agenda and go on to the next agenda item. So it may take a few moments to enter into closed session. Thank you all for your patience. Welcome, everyone. We have ended our closed session, and Chair Scott will re-enter us into the public forum.
All right, we're back in open session, and we're now ready to go to item number 8. Board Secretary.
Thank you, Chair Scott. I'll be sharing our agenda on the screen just momentarily. Hang on one moment. I'm wanting to make sure that our screen can be shared. Thank you for your patience. And Chair Scott, can you see that agenda coming through?
Yes, I can. It's item 8.
All right. I'll announce that. Agenda item number 8, possible report on action taken in closed session, which is Government Code Section 54957.1 and San Francisco Administrative Code Section 6512B. This is an action item and will be presented by Commissioner Chair Scott.
All right, I'm ready to entertain any discussion and/or a motion regarding possible report on action taken during closed session.
Commissioner Scott, I'd like to make the motion that this committee approved the 2021 annual employee performance evaluation. That was the action we took. We approved.
Commissioner Follinsby, you're on mute. Is there a second?
I will second, but I would also like to modify, with special commendation or something.
All right, that we
Oh,
approve.
I was saving that for number 9, but okay.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay.
I'll go along with you then. No, that makes it full. It said on the action taken, and so.
Yeah, you're right, I think probably. I'll let the chair decide.
All right.
Actually, I will too, yeah.
So the motion as offered was that we approve the performance evaluation of the executive director. So properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll now go to public comment. Do we have?
Thank you, Chair Scott. I'll read those
Yes.
instructions aloud as they're being displayed. Public comment will be available for each item on this agenda. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to comment in length unless the committee chair deems new public comment time limits during the meeting. All comments are to be made concerning the agenda item that has been presented. As a reminder, a caller may ask questions of the policy body, but there is no obligation to answer or engage in dialogue with the caller. When I welcome you on the call, you're encouraged to state your name clearly, although you may remain anonymous. When your 3 minutes have ended, I will thank you for your comment. You'll be placed back on mute, and the moderator will unmute the next caller. Remote viewing is available via the online platform WebEx. Opportunities to speak during the public comment period are available by dialing the number on the screen. The dial-in number is 415-655-0001. Again, 415-655-0001. When prompted, use access code 2483-425-9383. Again, 2483-425-9383. Then press pound and pound again. You will enter the meeting as an attendee on the public comment call line and dial *3 to be added to the public comment queue. When the system message says your line has been unmuted, this is your time to speak. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. I'll now take a moment as I'm Stepping into the moderator role to notify any callers on the public comment queue at this time. We have one caller on the phone line. 0 callers have specifically entered the public comment queue at this time. A reminder to all the callers on the line, you must dial *3 now to be added to join into the public comment queue for this specific agenda item. We'll wait 5 more seconds and then close public comment for this agenda item. There are still no callers in the public comment queue at this time. Hearing no further callers, public comment is now closed.
And that we have closed public comment, we're now ready to take action on the motion. All those in favor of the motion that we approve the executive director's performance evaluation report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, I will add my vote to this as chair. It is unanimous. And is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is carried unanimously and will be reported to the board accordingly. We're now ready to take action on item number 9, consideration of item 9 on the agenda.
Thank you, Chair Scott. Agenda item number 9, vote on whether to disclose any or all discussion held in closed session. This is San Francisco Administrative Code Section 67.12a. This is an action item and will be presented by Commissioner Chair Scott.
I'm ready to entertain a motion regarding whether we're going to disclose any or all of our discussion in closed session.
Chair Scott, I'd like
Yes, Commissioner
to move
Stefanski.
that that the committee concurred unanimously to add with commendation to the action that we took and the discussion that was held, and that's all we'd like to disclose.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we disclose that the committee in closed session commended the executive director on her performance during the period and added with commendation to the performance evaluation. Is there discussion? Hearing none, we will now have public comment on this item.
Thank you, Chair Scott. There will be the instructions are being displayed visually, and I'll be reading them aloud. Public comment is available for each item on this agenda. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to comment in length unless the committee chair deems new public comment time limits during the meeting. All public comments are to be made concerning the agenda item that has been presented. As a reminder, a caller may ask questions of the policy body, but there is no obligation to answer or engage in dialogue with the caller. When I welcome you on the call, you're encouraged to state your name clearly, although you may remain anonymous. When your 3 minutes have ended, I will thank you for your comment. You'll be placed back on mute, and the moderator will unmute the next caller. Remote viewing is available via the online platform WebEx. Opportunities to speak during the public comment period are available by dialing the number on the screen. The dial-in number is 415-655-0001. Again, 415-655-0001. When prompted, use access code 2483-425-9383. Again, 2483-425-9383. And then press pound and pound again. You will enter the meeting as an attendee on the public comment call line and dial *3 to be added to the public comment queue. When the system message says your line has been unmuted, this is your time to speak. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. I'll now check our public comment queue to see if there are any callers. We have one caller on the phone line. 0 callers have specifically entered the public comment queue at this time. Other callers may enter the public comment queue as it continues. I will indicate if there are any more callers in the public comment queue and wait 5 more seconds. There are still no callers in the public comment queue at this time. Hearing no further callers, public comment is now closed. And Commissioner Scott, we'll just need to have you unmute.
Thank you. We're now ready to vote on the motion that we commended the executive director on her performance for the past period. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? As the chair, I'm adding my vote to the affirmative, and it is unanimous. We're now ready for action or consideration for item number 10.
Thank you, Chair Scott.
Board Secretary.
Thank you, Chair Scott. Agenda item number 10 is general public comment, an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any matter within the board's jurisdiction that is not on the agenda, including requesting that a board place a matter on a future agenda item for the Governance Committee. This is a discussion item. I'll be reading those instructions aloud and displaying them visually. Public comment will be available for each item on this agenda. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to comment in length unless the committee chair deems new public comment time limit during the meeting. All public comments are to be made concerning the agenda item that has been presented. As a reminder, a caller may ask questions of the policy body, but there's no obligation to answer or engage in dialogue with the caller. When I welcome you on the call, you're encouraged to state your name clearly, although you may remain anonymous. When your 3 minutes have ended, I thank you for your comment. You'll be placed back on mute, and I will unmute the next caller. Remote viewing is available via the online platform WebEx. Opportunities to speak during the public comment period are available by dialing the number on the screen. The dial-in number is 415-655-0001. Again, 415-655-0001. When prompted, use access code 2483-425-9383. Again, 2483-425-9383. Then press pound and pound again. You will then enter the meeting as an attendee on the public comment call line and dial *3 to be added to the public comment queue. When the system message says your line has been unmuted, this is your time to speak. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. I'll now check our caller line to see if there's anyone in the public comment queue. We have 2 callers on the phone line. One caller has specifically entered the public comment queue at this time. Other callers may enter the public comment queue as we continue. I will elevate the first caller. Welcome, caller.
Hello. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Livette Calentine, and I'm a retiree member of the Health Service System. I would first like to commend you and previous boards for including proactive fitness benefits to the healthcare plans. Being able to work out in a shared facility provides the motivation that I need to keep working out. In the past several years, I have been able to use the Silver Sneakers gym benefit to maintain and improve my fitness levels. The gym sort of became my best friend, if you will, both pre-pandemic and ongoing, keeping me sane and fit. And by consistently working out, I have lowered both my health risks and healthcare utilization. Now, I relocated from the Bay Area to Maui in 2002, to Maui, Hawaii. I joined 24 Hour Fitness, and it became my go-to gym, and they are a Silver Sneakers provider. Unfortunately, in June of 2020, 24 Hour permanently closed its only Maui location. So I found another participating gym and began to working out there. I could even walk from home. Regrettably, last December, I was notified that this facility also would no longer participate in the Silver Sneakers program. So I called every gym on Maui, and currently all gyms except for one have stopped participating in Silver Sneakers. That one location is about an hour's drive away from my home one way, so that is not sustainable. I did speak with the gym owners about why they weren't participating in Silver Sneakers, and I was told repeatedly that the reimbursement rates are too low and that payments are too slow in coming. I understand that United Healthcare, at least, is transitioning to a different fitness program called Renew Active. In checking the availability of Renew Active participating providers on Maui, I found there are currently 4 I'm asking you if it might be possible to offer members a choice between Silver Sneakers and Renew Active, or that's one question. Or alternatively, perhaps HSS could refine the Silver Sneakers package to better attract key providers on Maui and in other rural areas. There are probably very few HSS members living in the Hawaiian Islands, I understand, much less than on Maui Island. And I appreciate that over the years, huge improvements have been made to accommodate far-flung members, allowing for artists out-of-state participation in health service plans. So I hope you will join me in exploring creative ways to include Maui and other far-flung members in fitness benefit programs. Thank you so much for allowing me to testify today.
Thank you, caller.
That concludes my testimony.
Thank you, caller. I'll be looking at our public comment queue for any further callers. We have 0 callers on the phone line. I'll give 5 more seconds for anyone to elevate and join public comment queue. There are still no callers in the public comment queue at this time who've raised their hand. Hearing no further callers, public comment is now closed.
Thank you, Board Secretary, and I thank the member for her patience in sitting through this entire meeting to make those comments to us. And so now we're ready to stand in adjournment. And I want to thank again and commend our Board Secretary for her hard work in preparing these materials and the diligent way in which she has conducted this meeting and supported this meeting throughout this afternoon. And I thank the 2 commissioners as well. Commissioner Savansky.
Yes, thank you, Chair Scott. I just wanted to add, at a recent retired employees city and county meeting, there were actually several other members who spoke up on the issue of fitness and our wellness center and programs being available during the pandemic, either remotely or actively. And there were comments regarding Silver Sneakers that a number of members participated and are now upset that they're losing that participation. So for what it's worth,
And Commissioner,
if we can look
I
at
would
that down
ask-
the road.
okay, and I would ask that you share that information with the executive director
Yeah.
as well. Thank you.
That's
Okay.
why I'm
and-
mentioning it and hoping it goes forward at some point. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Is there anything else? Seeing nothing, I wish you well until we meet again. Thank you so much.
Thank
Meeting
you.
stands adjourned.
Good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Adjournment at 3:24 p.m.
Yeah. And thank you, Eric, for keeping me on topic.